a man or woman in uniform that says, hey man, stick with us, we'll stick with you. Stand with us, we'll stand with you. You can come be an American if you just help us out. They're going to be like, yo, I see what's happening to Afghans right now. Hell no.
Your stories, your service, your community. This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Alphas, welcome to Season 7 of the Tango Alpha Lima podcast. This year, we're on a mission to engage today's veterans through authentic stories, education, and foolhardy entertainment. We're dropping the rails. We're bowling with the barrier things up, which means it could go into other lanes. We don't know what's going to happen. But we're building a virtual community that celebrates continued service and supports the American Legion's mission, and we are so glad that you're here to be a part of that community. Stacy, I think you've got something you want to share that's very important to the veteran and military communities.
Absolutely. A group of 43 members of Congress is calling for action against unaccredited companies that charge veterans for help filing for disability and benefits with the Department of Veterans Affairs. For all you alphas listening out there, go to your American Legion Veteran Service Officer and they'll help you for absolutely free. There should be no reason why anybody's charging you. But anyway, I digress. Federal law states that anyone helping veterans prepare initial claims for disability benefits must be accredited by the VA. So if you are approached by somebody or, an ambulance chaser is trying to help you and they're not accredited, say absolutely not. Go to your American Legion VSO. And that said, the service must be free. Nonprofit veteran service organizations like the American Legion and VFW have long helped vets with claims. In an effort to reduce barriers for vets, Congress removed criminal penalties from the law in 2006. And that left the door open for budding entrepreneurs to leap in and get in that legal gray area to help vets and to pad their pockets, if you know what I'm saying. The number of these claims consulting outfits have exploded over the last 10 years since they lifted this ban and has become a multi-billion-dollar industry over the past decade. So these people are earning money off the backs of veterans' disabilities. The Guard VA Benefits Act, more known as Papa's Bill, would reinstate the penalties that were removed nearly 2 decades ago. But the legislation is locked in a stalemate with the Competing Choice for Veterans Act, sponsored by Republican Congressman Jack Bergman of Michigan, which would set a $12,500 cap on what claims consulting firms can charge. While Congress is gridlocked, the VA has little recourse besides sending warning letters, and NPR and their partners, the nonprofit newsroom, The War Horse, obtained letters from the VA that were sent to 40 claims companies that were making money off the backs of veterans. Again, many of these businesses continue to operate today. Please be careful and aware of who you're approached by and who you say yes to. Read the fine print. If they are not VA accredited, walk away. And then go visit your American Legion VSO. We'll have a link to the Warhorse article so you can see those company names list by list.
So, look, shifting over, we got a great guest today. He got on a phone call in August of 2021 from an Afghan friend as Kabul was falling. So that's the moment that changed everything. Shawn VanDiver is a U.S. Navy veteran and a national security leader who turned that call into action, launching AfghanEvac. So what started as an emergency response became a massive coalition of veterans, civilians, NGOs, and government partners committed to honoring America's promise. To date, that effort has helped support the relocation of more than 195,000 Afghans. Absolutely incredible. So today, Shawn serves as the founder and president of AfghanEvac. He leads Gaslamp Consulting and chairs the San Diego Convention Center board, working at the intersection of public service, humanitarian policy, and crisis leadership. He's a father, a sailor, and someone who answers the call when it matters most. We got a great show with Shawn today. Really excited for this conversation.
It's going to be fantastic. And when we get done talking to Shawn, we've got some great scuttlebutts lined up for you. We covered the Veteran Buddy Link. Remember Army veteran and Beetle Bailey creator Mort Walker and discuss the Taliban's impact on Afghan women. So be sure to stay tuned until the end because you do not want to miss that.
Okay, Alphas, stick around. We'll be right back with Shawn VanDiver after the break.
This year we have a golden opportunity. No, make that a red, white, and blue opportunity to do something truly special.
That's right, Commander. This year America is celebrating its 250th birthday.
And the American Legion family will be leading the nationwide celebrations.
The American Legion Family USA 250 Challenge is a year-long celebration honoring our nation. You can participate in the challenge by choosing one or more of the 3 categories.
The 3 categories are community service, mental wellness, and physical activity.
Whether you are doing 1, 2, or all 3 categories, you are making a difference in the lives of veterans and their families.
Visit legion.org/USA250 to learn more and register for $30. For your registration fee, you will get to choose a commemorative tech shirt, and your donations support the American Legion Veterans and Children Foundation.
Be a part of what makes our nation great.
Help us celebrate America.
Join us in the USA 250 Challenge.
All right, Alphas. Well, today's guest, we're here with Shawn VanDiver. He got a call from an Afghan friend and answered it with action. Shawn is a U.S. Navy veteran and founder of AfghanEvac, which has helped support the relocation of more than 195,000 Afghans. Absolutely remarkable. Shawn, welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Adam, Joe, Stacy, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome.
So tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what made you decide to go into the military and you know, honestly, and why you picked the Navy. You know, was it just because you had a good ASVAB score?
Partially. So you guys did not know this. You're about to learn something. Your whole viewership's about to learn something. I was a troubled youth in Bakersfield, California. I went to boot camp for bad kids twice at a National Guard base that was at a Japanese internment camp, Camp San Luis Obispo. From these back in World War II, our country did some horrific stuff. We put all of these Japanese Americans into camps just to be safe, right? Which feels a little bit like what we're seeing the government head towards now with Afghans and with other Muslims and with other immigrants from other populations, especially after this shooting in D.C., right? So anyway, I go to this boot camp for bad kids twice. I finished high school after I got kicked out twice, but I had joined the Navy from there. So I had a GED and a high school diploma. I got a 93 on my ASVAB, crushed it. They told me they'd give me $12,000 or $25,000 or whatever it was in a enlistment bonus. The Air Force did not come in that high, and I was like, I could go do missiles and guns in the Navy, or I don't remember what the Air Force job was. So went off to the Navy, and got my ass kicked by a bunch of my fellow sailors. I was 17 years old. They got me right in line, and it was the best decision I ever made.
So you're from California and you joined the Navy, and you said you were a gunner. Is that right?
I was a fire controlman. So while I was in the Navy, I worked on the Mark 92 fire control system and the Aegis weapon system. I also did some counterterrorism stuff and some force protection, as well as I was a Navy instructor.
Interesting. So did your career kind of shape what you're doing now? Like, how did that impact or influence your transition and doing service after service?
Sure. So I'll tell you, when I was little, my mom had me working on political campaigns, which was really cool. I like democracy. I like civic engagement. And so I always had that sort of bit in me, the civic engagement bit. While I was in the Navy, we talk about honor, courage, and commitment. We talk about all these core values. We talk about how important leadership is. I took that stuff very seriously, but the things that we talked about weren't always reflected in the leaders who were given in whose charge we were put, right? So I always tried to make the Navy a better place. When I got out, I got involved in politics. I got involved in a national security group called the Truman National Security Project, and we started working on SIV issues. I've lived in California my entire life, so immigration has always been sort of top of mind. And the confluence of civic engagement, immigration, and national security sort of led me to caring about these issues. And then, I got involved in AfghanEvac. I started AfghanEvac because I had a buddy who was stuck in Afghanistan.
There you go. Tell us
What is this, 2020?
August 2021. Is that when you got the call from Kabul? What did that sound like, and what went through your mind in that moment?
Sure. So I was sitting right here when I got a text message from my buddy Lucky. He said, "Brother, I'm sorry I haven't responded." I had texted him, like, "Do you need help?" As we were watching the scenes of provinces fall. He said, "Brother, I'd go to the top of this mountain to get cell service. I'm sorry I haven't responded. We're surrounded by the Taliban. We're running out of ammunition. I think I'm going to die. Will you grant my last wish and help get my family back to San Diego?" So Lucky had already been here. I never served in Afghanistan. I served off the coast of Iraq, the Horn of Africa, South America, everywhere but Afghanistan. I met Lucky because of civic engagement. It was January 2017. President Trump had just done his first Muslim ban, and I called this press conference as the leader of Truman San Diego to say, hey, presidents get to make their own choices on immigration and what that looks like, but there's this population that's going to be impacted. You need to know what impact that's going to have on our national security, on veterans' morale, and on our long-term future conflicts. I had reached out to one of the local organizations and asked for a recently arrived wartime ally or two to come. And two came, a guy named Wolf from Iraq and Lucky from Afghanistan. He and I became good friends. So fast forward to April of 2021, the local paper here in San Diego asked me, hey, can you help us put together some op-eds from people that served in Afghanistan, some Afghans, and national security thinkers, me and some others. So I did, and at that time I learned Lucky would be going back because he needed to see his mom. His mom was dying. And if you'd told a Texan that Texas was going to go away in 6 months, they'd put on their boots, their hat, and their belt buckle, and they'd go to Texas, right? And that's what Lucky did. Lucky made it out. He talked his way through 10 Taliban checkpoints, resurfaced after our conversation, after I had been in a bunch of different chats, like 40 different chats, and I had organized into sync calls so we would all be talking, we wouldn't get anybody killed. And we had sort of organized an operations center. Lucky pops back up and is like, hey, brother, I made it to Kabul. Tells me the story about talking his way through 10 Taliban checkpoints. We got him to Eagle Base, which was a black site, a secret base. Got him on a black helicopter, sent him over to HKIA, and he made it back. But we'd already organized all these people, and this mission is so important because it's about how we close out our longest war. And we didn't do a good job of that. Not just because of the withdrawal, but because of President Biden not closing it out, not having a conversation with the nation during the State of the Union, not saying thank you to all the veterans and civilians who served there, and NGO workers, etc. And then Congress not passing the laws we need to get this right. And now it's becoming this partisan football, which it should just... It's only a partisan football between a small group of people. Those people happen to be in charge.
I think part of it also is I was in Iraq, and we had a fantastic interpreter by the name of Sammy. He was actually, the day I got injured, I was trying to get to the vehicle that he was in that had been hit with a roadside bomb. And in that moment, while I was deployed, I wasn't really thinking about what comes after for these people. I mean, it had come up in conversation because you sit around bored an awful lot. But for you, at what point did it go from you realizing that this wasn't just a single person, but a representation of something much bigger that needed to be addressed? When did you go from, oh my God, somebody's got to do something and nobody's doing it right? Like, give me a little bit of that, if you will.
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. So we recognized it early on, right? Like I was worried about one guy, but as I saw across, I'm like a big thinker, right? I saw across this ecosystem, thousands of veterans standing up. It wasn't just me that got a call like that, right? Thousands of people got calls like that, and everybody was doing what they could. I knew that we needed a few things. I knew that we would need systems to be able to make this repeatable and sustainable. I knew that and for government, things coming in from the outside should look the same. And I knew that people were desperate. They were in trouble, and people would try to take advantage of them. So we had to do everything as transparently as possible. And I knew that if we didn't get everybody aligned and on the same page, then government could ignore us. So that's why we brought AfghanEvac together. And I was sitting here, I was talking to Jack McCain and saying, like, look, I just launched this pledge form to get people to commit money. I didn't want to touch anybody's money. Said, commit money, and we'll help you direct it. We'll help you figure out who's doing good things with it. And then I did another form that was, hey, if you're Afghan and you're in trouble, you can securely upload your documents here. We need somewhere to capture who's all trying to get out, because we don't trust the government to hold on to that information and to do the right thing with it. And because we did all of that, I sort of realized the scope and the scale of the need. And then, even though my guy got out, I couldn't walk away from this. It wasn't my war, but this is my fight, right? Like, how we close out Afghanistan is going to matter so much to every single veteran who served in our generation. Vietnam veterans care about this. Future veterans are going to care about this, because when we go into Venezuela next week, or whenever that's going to happen, if it's going to happen, how is any Venezuelan supposed to trust a man or woman in uniform that says, hey man, stick with us, we'll stick with you. Stand with us, we'll stand with you. You can come be an American if you just help us out. They're going to be like, yo, I see what's happening to Afghans right now. Hell no. Right? So, like, for me, it's about...
even Iran and Kuwait and all that. Like, good Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? It's about the long term. It's about... I have a 17-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. If they serve in the military, I want them to be able to earn the trust. And look, above all, when somebody with a flag on their shoulder or speaking on behalf of the United States government makes a promise, that promise has to be able to be taken to the bank. You have to be able to cash that check. Otherwise, what the hell is going on? We've already lost, right? Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Shawn, can you do me a favor and walk me through, like, I know every case is very unique and handling how you're going to make contact with them and work to get them out. Can you walk me through maybe, like, fundamentally what that looks like from the point of contact until they get to the U.S., and including, like, the government visas, what it costs to do this, and what kind of toll does it take on you personally and the people, the organizers on this end, pass or fail?
So what I will say is, first I'm going to talk about where we were at our height and, like, how things were going really well, right? At our height, we had 5,000 Afghans a month coming out through U.S. government flights from Kabul to 3 different sites: Albania, Qatar, the Philippines, and Germany. Now, I said 3, I named 4. Germany and the Philippines swapped. We closed Germany down to open the Philippines up. So at any given time, there are 3 locations. They would then go from those locations, after more processing and vetting, to the United States. A churn of 5,000 per month. And it cost them nothing. That was at our height. Now, how it was before the fall of Kabul was an Afghan would have to this is for SIV only. And there's multiple pathways after the fall of Kabul that we can talk about later. But for SIVs only, you would apply online. You would send an email. You would get a form. You'd fill that form out. It would have a bunch of different information. You would include your contract, your letter of recommendation, your HR letter, and a litany of other documents. That would then go into a black hole for like 3 years or more, and awaiting chief of mission approval. And that's them validating all those things. Now, it could be much easier, right? If the onus was on the government of keeping paperwork together, then that could just happen like that. But the onus was on Afghans. And then once you get chief of mission approval, you put together your visa application. You fill out the visa application. You go and sit for an interview. You then wait another 6-8 months for administrative processing. And then you would get a visa in your passport after doing a medical, which was paid for. And then you could get on a flight and come here. You would get a flight loan, a 0% interest flight loan from the International Organization for Migration, IOM. and you would come here and start your American dream, where you would get a few months of rent, you would get help finding a job, English classes, things like that, for you and your whole family. Now, that sounds easy, but that can be a 3 to 5 year process. And when the Taliban's knocking on your door, people are threatening you, people are trying to kill you, that takes a toll, right? Now, that process, that SIV process, got faster and better under the Biden administration. We were able to drastically reduce the days. They started leveraging AI and machine learning and all of these things. We helped them modernize in a pretty big way. And after the fall of Kabul, there was these things called P1 and P2 refugees. So people who worked with the United States government, with media or NGOs, could be referred in with all of their paperwork, and they could then come here after passing extraordinary amounts of vetting. And everybody here is passing vetting. You can go to AfghanEvac.org/vetting to see sort of what that all looks like. Anytime somebody's telling you that they're worried about vetting for Afghans, they are uninformed or full of shit. Those are the only two options. The vetting is absolutely insane and extraordinary, and it works. We haven't had an incident where vetting failed at all. The shooter in D.C., that wasn't a failure of vetting. That was a failure of the CIA to take care of this guy, his mental health, right? Like, we handed this man a gun at age 15 and said, go kill people for us, and we never rebuilt him after that. But
Shawn, I'm interested a little bit in something you said right there that I wanted you to kind of just expand on a little bit. How did you bring all these disparate groups together? All these different entities, agencies, the veterans, civilians, NGOs. Sure. You got the government working more efficiently? I feel like we really need to talk about that for a second.
Like so a fairy tale.
How did you get this coalition to really come together to be a coalition?
Sheer force of will and forcing mechanisms, right? We created products that were useful to everybody. We also had the relationship with government so we could create collision points that people needed to succeed. And for the government, it was much easier because they could come to us and get to everybody and get information from everybody. We had a good two-way flow of information, rather than, like, you know, because they could spend every hour of their day meeting with outside groups and still not meet with all 250 or 300 groups. Or they could spend an hour every 2 weeks with us. We can collate the questions, get answers back for everybody, and distribute it both ways in a very transparent manner. And that's what we did. And then we earned their trust. We were able to get into the room because we had expertise. What we did really well is take that reality on the ground, pass all the bureaucratic bullshit layers, get up to the very top of government, the president, the secretary of state, their chiefs of staff, their deputies, and the people that are making the decisions on these issues, and help them understand what reality looked like with fact-based evidence, right? And because we did it that way, we built trust with government. Now, there was always like drama within the coalition. Like, some people felt like they wanted to have a microphone more, but that's okay. And the collective sort of fixes that. And when people would get particularly out of hand, we would we established a code of conduct that said, hey, you can't act like this. You have to treat people with dignity and respect. So, and it's all on our website. You can go check all that out. But it was really hard, but getting the coalition together was the most important thing that we did. And it worked, right? For the very first time in our country's history, we were keeping the promise to our wartime allies in a meaningful way.
I just want to say, as somebody who helps run a coalition, the work that you're talking about is being severely understated. I just want to highlight that for everybody, and to be able to bring people together, especially people outside of their own walls of their own organization, to do a unified thing, so very hard to do. And something that you really said that really kind of stuck out with me, that I'm also going to take forward too, is you were bringing the value to the government, building trust with them, bringing the information, partnership, things that they needed to know that they didn't, to fill their critical gap. Not like pointing the finger, but being like, look, you know, here's how we can be better together. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And look, we built so much trust that by midway through all of this, every single Afghan traveler got sent to our website to get information for what they needed to know before they left Kabul. I mean, I got to go and visit all of the sites. It was so incredible to see what we had built. And it cost like $2 billion a year, which some people would be like, oh, that's so much money. And I would say, bullshit. We spent trillions of dollars on these wars. $2 billion over 5 years, $10 billion. Okay, that's the cost of war. If we want to go to war, we've got to fund the front end and the back end, taking care of our veterans and the wartime allies who fight our wars.
Mm.
So,
print
you know,
that.
yeah. When you're trying to make something like this work over the sheer area that you're working in, you're dealing with different time zones. You're getting phone calls at 2 a.m, I'm sure. You're getting, I mean, these are all things that start happening. How do you take this thing and keep the human side of it without getting lost in the numbers, number one, and then...
Or in the DC bullshit.
Yeah, or exactly. How do you do something that requires so much, I don't know the best way to put it, spiritual investment, I guess is the best way. Like, it takes a part of you to do something like this because this is a passion from someone who cares. How do you keep the human side of this? How many people are working with how many people? Like, do you have one person that's in charge of 10,000 families, or like how do you keep it human?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. So I'm going to take this in a couple parts, right? I'm going to talk about how I keep the humanity of Afghans in my head. And it's a big secret, a real recipe for success that I'm reluctant to share, but it's, you just talk to Afghans, right? I show up in Afghan spaces. I go to lunch at Kabul Kebab a couple times a week here in San Diego. I travel around the country and I say, hey, I'm available. I'd like to talk. And I just talk to people, and I don't preach at them. I hear from them what's going on with them. And then, look, on the personal side, a lot of volunteers, myself included, have lost jobs, have lost marriages, have lost all of these things in service of this mission. And look, I think the place we're in right now, where President Trump has shut everything down, I think the hardest part for us is that we had it working. It was moving along. It was super bipartisan, nonpartisan. Like, this wasn't a political thing. And the president turned it into a political thing, and it feels like a punch in the gut. But
what is the political thing there? Just because it was Biden's thing? Is it a border thing?
Yeah, I think President Trump doesn't like it because it was Biden's thing, and then they were waiting for something like this DC shooting to happen, and they wanted to blame it all on all Afghans, and it's so crazy. Like, citizenship appointments are being canceled now. Like, oath ceremonies. They've already done all the things. The oath ceremonies are being canceled. They stopped processing green cards. They stopped the relocations on day one. They've stopped all of these things, and there are 15,000 families that need to be reunited right now. There's 3,000 family of active duty U.S. military service members. So moms and dads, brothers and sisters, people who are related to our currently serving in uniform service members. Stuck. 3,000 of them are stuck because the Trump administration said no. And the Biden administration didn't move them fast enough. We knew what the Trump administration was going to do, right? We know who they are. And it's just, I think it's soul crushing for a lot of us. But that, in times like that, you wrap yourself around the community, right? You sit down, you have a beer at the American Legion, you have some kebab at Kabul Kebab or a Kudus Kebab. You find your people and you lean on each other. And look, and for me, this is hopefully going to become a full-time job. I've done this for free the whole time. I did this as a volunteer. And now we're raising money. So anybody who's out there listening, AfghanEvac.org/donate. We need your help. It used to be that the president really liked me, and so it was easy to hold a job. Now the president really doesn't like me.
Right. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, Shawn, is for our listeners, for all the alphas out there who are wanting to support you and your efforts, what can we do? Can we write our congressman? Can we, obviously donating to your cause helps, but what else can we do outside of that would make an impact?
So there's 3 things. Number 1, write your member of Congress. Call them, write them, show up. Don't yell at them. Call up, show them, tell them, hey, we need you to stand with our allies. This is important, X, Y, and Z. And you can go to our website and sort of get all the talking points. Those are all there. Number 2, if you care deeply about this, you can sign up to be a battle buddy. we launched this program called Battle Buddies, where veterans can sign up to go to immigration court with our wartime allies. All you have to do is stand there. You can get one of these shirts. We have Battle Buddies shirts, AfghanEvac shirts, or you can just wear your veteran's hat or whatever identifies you as a veteran and show up. And immigration judges all over this country know us and they respect us. And when we show up, people don't get snatched by ICE. Number 3, you can go to the AfghanEvac.org/store, get some gear. That supports our mission. And look, just learn more about this. Talk more about this. You don't have to know everything. You can follow us on social media and see that I just sometimes get on camera and talk. And that's what we need. We need more of this in the discourse. We need people talking about how important this is, because if we ignore it, it'll go away, and that means that a lot of people are going to die. Both here and abroad.
Well, it's a great summary and a great synopsis, and I love how you guys are kind of distilling it down into these 3 things in the programs, that you've launched. And, in my advocacy and coalition work, especially around alternative therapies, last year there was a big opportunity with the FDA for a treatment, MDMA, to go through. It ended up it wasn't really a black and white. There's a lot of reasons why. It deflated a lot of people's energy in the ecosystem because they saw it as a real potential for innovation and advancement. And as a coalition leader, as an organizational leader, you sense the people that are part of the movement. And man, I could tell you, I could just, somebody let the air out of everybody's balloon. And then you're trying to think okay, let me reassess here. Is this meaningful? Do I still believe in this, and why do I believe in it? And is there still work to be done? And it's how are you going to regroup? How are you going to pull people together? And then how are you going to make that impact with this administration? It sounds like there's quite a few challenges and roadblocks that you're up against, but also you know how to do it, and you know how to get in there, and you know how to make an impact, and you know how to build the relationships and win over government. So I guess my question is really more now that the conditions have changed, that you guys are being confronted with some struggles and some challenges, what is that kind of messaging to the coalition forces? You got those 3 programs. Is that kind of what you guys have rallied around, or what do you say to those leaders in the community? And I know you've kind of covered that a little bit of why this is so important, but really more from how do you guys regroup and how do you strategically go forward?
Well, look, it's about that community building, wrapping our arms around each other. It's about remembering. So for me, it's feeling a little bit lonely out here, whereas in August 2021, there was a lot of people fighting, right? A lot of people up on the news, a lot of folks who leaned conservative up there criticizing Joe Biden for the withdrawal. The number one message I have to those guys is, where the hell are you? Get out here. We need you as mad now as you were then. And if we do this together, we can win. Number 2, I like to think about this as afflict the comfortable, comfort the afflicted, right? We need to make sure that we're comforting Afghans, that they know we're fighting. The fight really matters. That we're giving them as much information as possible so they can make decisions for their lives. And the same for the advocates and veterans who are struggling with how awful this has been. We need to make sure that people have all of the information, that this isn't a backroom deal thing. This is not going to happen quietly behind the scenes. We've tried that. It didn't work. And you can go to AfghanEvac.org/letters to see sort of all of the or go.AfghanEvac.org/letters. All of those things are sort of out there, and unfortunately, that's just not how it's going to work. The third thing is that it's okay to take a knee sometimes, right? Folks can take a knee. There's plenty of us still in the fight, and you can come back stronger, or you can move on from this chapter in your life. But we do need people to write their members of Congress, let their city council members know, and visit with the Afghan community in your region and other immigrant populations too, right? Afghans are special to us because of this reason, but there are people fleeing persecution and devastating wars around the world that the U.S. in some cases had something to do with, and in other cases didn't. And everybody's feeling very attacked right now. And veterans, we occupy a special place, right? So what I would say is, get involved in your community. And all, AfghanEvac is not about Afghans. AfghanEvac is about civic engagement, right? What we do is we band together, we bring our communities together to help make sure that justice is served and honor, courage, and commitment are respected.
Well said, Shawn. One last little tiny question, and maybe it's the biggest. How are the Afghans that have come over doing? Are they
Not good.
having the opportunity to raise up and maybe even provide additional support and help be a part of this solution set?
Yeah, look, if for Afghans who are American citizens, it's safe for them to speak out. And there's a lot of frustrated folks who are in some sort of limbo, but look, so many of these people have been in limbo for 4.5 years, whether it's they're waiting on family reunification, they're waiting on their green cards, they're waiting on asylum, they're waiting on something. And that takes a toll on you, right? And what I'm concerned about is I want to make sure that the reason I said go out and visit with Afghan communities is they're feeling really attacked right now. They're feeling really unwanted by the administration. And it's so important and incumbent on us to make sure that they know that that's not true. That's not reflective of the American public. The American public appreciates Afghans. And I sort of believe that it seems a little bit like the administration is trying to push folks who are already in a vulnerable state toward making decisions that they'll regret later. And that, and we can't let them do that. We have to make sure that we are solid and that they know we stand with them and that we know they stood with us.
So I just want to say I love where your heart's at. I being somebody that is in a weird sort of way sort of leans into martyrdom when it comes to other people. It can be heavy knowing how much work there is to do. And I think that if there's anything that I personally have taken away from this is that I need to make sure and check myself to be open to conversations with things that I'm not educated about, to make sure that I know what is going on, and to be able to, anybody who's trying to tell you to be closed-minded towards anything does not have your best interest at heart. When somebody is telling you not to listen to an entire group of people, or not to have a conversation, or to to focus on the negative and to lump a bunch of people into one big pile. I mean, we've spent half of American history trying to fight that. And so, I think that we're at a point as veterans where we get a look at what can happen when you have different people from different backgrounds all working together. Every one of us look back at that period in our lives, at least the social side of things, if you didn't enjoy the work that you did, as one of the biggest social experiments that we've ever been a part of. And I think most of us look back on it like such a beautiful thing. So, it means the world that we've got people like you, Shawn, that are here to try and make a difference and to try and make people realize that different people from different backgrounds bring new things to the table. And the more you have at the table, the more there is to eat. So,
exactly.
It means a lot to have you here, brother, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your time, Shawn, and I can't thank you enough for spending this moment with us and sharing with us your efforts. I want to thank you personally, and everybody that's pitched in to, AfghanEvac. Thank you. For all the Afghans out there listening, I support you, and I'm always here to help. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our alphas that we didn't already cover?
Yeah, look, I happen to be the one here on the podcast, but there are thousands of Americans across this country who stood up, who've given up, their time, treasure, and talent, and in many cases, their entire lives have changed since all of this. And now it's hard. Right now, there's a target on our backs. Laura Loomer is out there attacking us, but people aren't quitting, and those people deserve so much credit, and I'm just so grateful. So, if you're listening to this and you're part of the AfghanEvac Coalition or any part of the ecosystem here, thank you. We're going to get through this, and we're going to come out on the other side victorious.
All right, Alphas. You can go to AfghanEvac.org to learn more about Shawn's work. Thanks so much for visiting us today. Alphas, stick around for some Scuttlebutt after the break.
In precision marksmanship, you compete against one of your most formidable opponents, yourself.
It's different than other sports, but it's also a lot of discipline. I definitely love the intensity and the challenge. I think that has also helped me come out of my shell because we go to so many different places, meet so many new people.
You gotta make sure that you're always there in the game at all times. It's nice to have like that sort of head-to-head competition.
So just get involved. We'll teach you how.
Okay, Alphas, we hope you had a great break. Now it's time for some Scuttlebutt.
Did you hear the news?
Veterans often feel a real disconnect from civilian life. We've talked about it a lot on this show before, but this is why many only open up to people who've worn the uniform. That gap is what led Marine veteran Brian Foster to launch Together We Served in 2003. Now, the largest online veteran directory in the country, connecting more than 2.5 million veterans across every branch. Through tools like Buddy Finder and Veteran Buddy Link, TWS helps vets reconnect with old unit mates, find local veterans, and rebuild the camaraderie many miss after service. It's not about reliving the war stories. Well, not only about reliving those. It's about reminding veterans they're not alone once the mission ends.
No, I've checked out togetherweserve.com, and it's pretty incredible. I think it's something that we can utilize to reconnect with veterans who we served with downrange, but also here back home. And especially if they're in your community, it's a great way to talk to each other, and they understand the language, they understand the history. So I think this program is really helpful, and it might be a really great opportunity where you can connect at your local American Legion post and maybe roll that into getting together more often.
I think also one thing that I want to bring up here is that on top of being able to get a hold of veterans that you've served with, making new veteran friends can be hard. And I think that one of the interviews that we did when we were at the Army-Navy game was with a gentleman by the name of Clay, who is part of the American Legion Gaming Discord. So if you're looking to meet new veterans as well, you may want to jump on Discord. They're always gaming. They're a super friendly group of people. They invited me in. I said I had a problem in a game, and they were like, "Let's do it." And it was a really cool experience. So,
So
Gaming
for folks
Discord.
that don't know about Discords, what is Discord? How do they jump on a Discord?
So Discord is a chat platform that can be used for a lot of people that game already know about it. It may even be integrated into PlayStation and Xbox, but
It's an app you can get in the App Store, download it on your phone.
Yep.
Yeah.
On your phone or on your computer. And that's what I like, because you can chat with people when you're on your phone or if you're on your computer. Both, using video and using chat, like text messages. And it creates sort of like a mini community, including little like AOL chat rooms, like mini chat rooms that you can talk to each other in too, which is kind of fun. So
it's a great way to stay
one.
connected. And so you can get on, you can download that, check it out. But kind of tying this back to Together We Served, it's a great opportunity for those to maybe get on there, go and share this website with your local post, and then see if there's maybe some veterans in your community that aren't involved in the Legion. So it could be a great way to do some outreach and help bring people into the Legion community as well. So that's www.togetherweserve.com, and we'll have that in the show notes. Joe, what do you got for us?
Oh, they're famous.
So some people who served, imagine you go and you're trying to find somebody that you served with, and you're on Together We Served, and then all of a sudden you realize, boom, they're a celebrity now. There are some celebrity veterans out there. So we've got a celebrity who served. He's approaching his 80th birthday back in 2003. Mort Walker had a message for anyone wondering if he'd slow down. There's not a chance. Walker's a creative force behind the Beetle Bailey, one of the most iconic comic strips of all time. And after more than 5 decades and nearly 1,800 newspapers worldwide, he still woke up every morning with fresh ideas. Retirement, he said, was not on the table. Beetle Bailey began in 1950, inspired by Walker's own Army service during World War II. Camp Swampy, which is a beautiful name for a camp, by the way. I think we can all agree that when you hear Camp Swampy, there's a certain visual
Swampiness to it. Yeah.
A swampy, yeah. There's a.
I feel the sweat.
Swampy,
I feel the sweat.
Okay. modeled after Fort Leonard Wood, and many of the characters came straight from real life. The overconfident lieutenant, the grizzled sergeant, the general who couldn't lead his way out of a paper bag, Beetle himself. Walker admitted he was basically drawing himself, a soldier who hated bureaucracy and pushed back against the system. Over the years, though, the strip evolved just enough to reflect changing military, but Walker always kept the priority clear. Being funny mattered more than being accurate. Because as he puts it, Beetle Bailey wasn't really about the military. It was about the people, their flaws, their failures, and the universal truth that we all relate to the little guy at the bottom. I think that is hilariously accurate. I had an opportunity to do a History Channel school visit with a Korean War vet, and I was kind of intimidated because I'm like, this guy's like the real deal, and I'm just, Joe. And the more we talked, the more I realized that these young men are all the same.
Yeah,
They might have been cigarettes and
yeah.
in the MREs back then, but really you've got a bunch of goofballs sitting around, shooting the breeze and talking about home. And it kind of made me feel more connected to these vets that I look up to in a really good way. But despite countless awards and even recognition from the Department of Defense, Walker said his greatest reward wasn't fame or medals. It was knowing people checked in on Beetle and the gang every day like old friends. And that to him was worth picking up the pen every single morning. September 4th, 2025 marked the strip's 75th anniversary, a milestone few comics have ever reached. For the Walker family, it's both the celebration of their father's creation and a continuation of a legacy that has outlived the man who drew it for more than 6 decades.
It's crazy.
Mort Walker died in 2018, but his sons Greg, Brian, and Neil have kept the strip alive, publishing new gags every day in newspapers and online through Comics Kingdom and King Features Syndicate. We'll have a link for that in the show notes as well. Please check that out. It's such a cool story.
Fire in the hole!
You guys know I love Reddit. And
Boy, do we.
Do we? And because Shawn was our guest today, I wanted to focus on the Afghans. In particular, of course, women and how they're impacted. And so I took to Reddit, went down that Reddit rabbit hole. And when I dug in, I found out that Afghan evacuation has impacted women. And the reality is it's grim. Over the past 4 years, the Taliban has essentially erased women from the public life, banning them from work, from education, free movement, and even appearing in public without a male chaperone. I can't even fathom what it would be like if I couldn't leave my house. It's, I don't know. I just can't picture it. The Atlantic recently shared stories like Miriam's, who she was sold into marriage at 12 to a Taliban fighter, abused for years, briefly freed during the Afghans' democratic era, and is now trapped again under even harsher rule. Millions of Afghan women once went to school, they voted, they worked, and lived publicly. And today, new Taliban decrees control their bodies, voices, and futures. So the question is, alphas, what can be done? The U.S. still lacks a formal Afghanistan policy pressuring lawmakers to restore asylum protections matters. Support efforts like the Afghan Adjustment Act, the organizations such as the Feminist Majority Foundation, and even the Malala Fund, and more. Check out episode 185 with former Afghan Army Captain Mahnaz Akbari. I think knowing a personal face to this really helps and compels us to act. And as Shawn impressed upon us in this episode, reach out to your local politician and tell them how you feel. We live a life of service even after we hang up the uniform, and this is an opportunity to make sure that our allies know we will not leave them when it matters.
And don't wait for someone to hurt before you understand how important this empathy is. Do some research. A lot of times we have a tendency to wait until it affects us personally. And I know that on my end of things, I'm so impressed by people that go out of their way to make a difference with no personal stakes in it. People like Shawn, people that step up, people like you guys, even who constantly work for other people. And I know that most of us, when we are in the spotlight, it is for a purpose far outside of ourselves. And so, I just want to take a moment to thank you guys, because it's people like you guys and Shawn and maybe me on accident occasionally that make it make things a little bit easier for those kids that come in after us. I don't mean that, of course, in a derogatory way, but looking back at when I served, I was a kid, and so we got to take care of these new soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Space Forcians,
Yeah.
and Costa Ricans. Is that what we call the Coast Guard?
The Coast Guard.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, look, it was a great launch into season 7, episode 1. Great job, Joe, Stacy. We had a great guest. Really inspiring to see, really the embodiment of what you just talked about in your last segment, Stacy, in the Scuttlebutt, and Joe, what you just covered, and in Shawn's kind of lived experience and the action that he jumped out and took.
Yeah.
So I think to me it was inspiring. Also some parallels into the coalition work that I do. So always cool when you can kind of relate in, to the guest, but also for a very different output and a very necessary output. What was your kind of like key thing that you took away from Shawn today, Stacy, or thing that you'll take with you going forward?
I think what really impacted me was his tenacity and stick-to-itness. I hate that. I used to hate that on my feedback reports, but I will say that word adequately describes how I feel about Shawn and what he's doing. And he really motivated me to want to learn more, as Joe mentioned, and to be a mouthpiece for the people who matter. They supported us, and we need to support them.
Yeah, well said. Joe, I know you just kind of had some wrap-up thoughts. So just one real quick, kind of fun, looking forward question for you each. What are you most looking forward to for season 7, Joe?
Honestly, I feel like we have just hit such a cool stride with what we're doing and our ability to do what we're doing. And I'm excited for this whole season, because I feel like we're finally in a place where we can really dig in and get some great interviews. Not that, we haven't, had some great interviews before, but I feel like the more we get to know each other, the better this whole thing gets. And so I'm just excited for the season because I'm with you guys.
Yeah. Adam and Joe, I really appreciate you. It's an amazing team that we have. And I want to thank Holly and Henry and Jarek. They're all behind the scenes making this podcast happen. And of course, all you alphas out there who are listening to us, you are absolutely the most 100% bestest ever. So please stick with us. We've got a great season coming up with some great interviews. You don't want to miss it.
All right, Alphas, thanks for listening. You can subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your favorite shows. Okay. Subscribe to our newsletter or send us mail and guest recommendations at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. We'll see you next week.